All right. It's 9:30. We'll call the meeting to order. First item is to approve the agenda. Do we have any additions, deletions?
Mayor Droba, I would move the agenda.
Very good. We have a motion by the mayor. Do we have a second?
I can second that.
All right. Have a second by Councilor Kraus. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. The next item is the treasurer's report and bill, the authorizing paying the bills. Treasurer McBride.
Mr. Chair, can we go back to the minutes first? From 9/21?
Oh, all right. Sorry. It's from September 21st. Do you have any deletions, corrections, additions?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner McBride. I will move on the minutes.
Very good. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Mayor Drobo, I'll second.
Very good. Thanks, Mayor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Very good. The next item is the treasurer's report. Commissioner McBride.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Friday, I came in from bird hunting, like Joe, to do the financials, look things over. Cold weather testing first. We had a couple of late arriving bills that came in after I went through the bills. On back at page 1, we have bills to be paid of $5,578.80. Nothing out of the line there. Nothing stands out. Minnesota Power and Midco had not come in at that time, and since that they have Mid-Continent $190, and Minnesota Power $1,106.28, and I would like to add that to the bills, and I would move the payment of those bills.
All right. We have a motion by Treasurer McBride. We have a second.
I'll second. Mayor Droba, I'll second.
All right. We have a second by Councilor Kraus. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. All right, Mr. Chair.
Continue.
Okay, then on page 3, on the cold weather testing, a separate bill from JLR for Ethernet internet access, $1,193.40. I would move that we pay that bill.
All right. We have a motion by Treasurer McBride. Do we have a second?
Second, Mayor Droba.
We have a second from Mayor Droba. Further discussion, questions?
I think that's...
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Thank you, Treasurer McBride. We'll move on.
We got more left, Mr. Chair.
All right.
And then on the first page was a $7,500 transfer to cold weather testing. That was that came out of the JLR account. Just want to make notice of that, $7,500 from JLR to cold weather testing. No need for approval on that. KEDA. No transfers. KEDA. Unpaid bills of $21,081.73. Had to pay the group here. That's the $19,000 plus going to Koochiching County. Midco and Worley's was not available at the time. Since that time, Mid-Continent has come in at $110.17. I don't believe the Worley bill has come in yet. Okay. All right. We'll work on that one. So with that, I move payment of $21,081.73, along with $110.17 bills to be paid for KETA.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner McBride. We have a second.
I'll second.
Second from Councilor Kraus.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I could just add one thing, one note. On page 5, the budget versus actual, we're closing in on year end here, and I just would note that we are, on the expense side, we are below budget by about $22,000. So part of that's pandemic related, just that we've, limited travel and, just expenses overall we've tried to contain them in light of that. So I just wanted to point that out.
Very good. Any questions of Director Nevenin? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. We'll move on to the housing discussion with our local realtors. Paul, you can introduce them.
Mr. Chair, thank you. And again, thank you for joining us this morning. We've got Pam, Shannon, and Julie, local realtors. And as you recall, we conducted a countywide housing study several years ago. We hired a firm to do a comprehensive, and again, I think they pointed out some things that we already knew. There's a shortage of different types of housing in virtually every corner of the county. Our housing stock is aging, but there's also some higher end housing that's occurring up in the lake and along rivers. The Housing Coalition continues to meet on a regular basis, but as I've had some conversations with the realtors and just talking about the current inventory, and as we talk about recruitment or workforce or people trying to move back to the area, housing has become a real glaring issue that we're not able to meet. So I just wanted to invite these folks to our meeting this morning and just kind of put some anecdotal or put some observational support behind this notion of kind of where we are with the local market and what they see happening out there from a buyer and seller perspective. And then, what course of action can we take, if any, at this point? Or is there a role for KETA or local governments to play in trying to address our current housing situation? So with that, ladies, I'll just open it up. Again, this is kind of an informal conversation, but just what are you guys seeing out there?
Going first.
Pam?
And yep, what I'm seeing is not only a dearth of housing across all sectors, but more importantly than that, well, perhaps more importantly than that, the quality of the housing available is substandard by most measures, definitely by the measures of people coming in from out of town who are looking to make a life here. They are appalled.
And we're particularly, this is Julie Schumacher, I want to echo Pam, we have a pretty severe shortage of housing in certain categories, and especially that relocation buyer that is looking in I would have said 80 to 150, now I would move that like 100 to 175. So if you think about that price range, that's been really challenging to find them options. And also for move-up buyers and even some, first-time buyers, interest rates are terrific. But it's also the quality, because if you look at our housing stock, what's our newest development, like Stenberg probably, and that's what, 1980s? So that's quite old now. When I get a home that's built in the 80s, I feel like, oh, this is a newer home for International Falls that I get to show, you know? So, and the other real shortage I've seen in conversations, there are elderly folks staying in their lake homes and their large homes that say to me, I would sell this in a minute if I knew where I could go. Like they're looking for maybe the one-level townhome or twin home options or single-family options in the city of International Falls with those amenities, close to healthcare, et cetera. And they are staying in their homes way too long. And though they're not freeing up that housing stock for buyers as well. So those are some of the things that I'm seeing.
Thank
And
you.
this is Shannon. I'll echo everything that both Pam and Julie are saying, completely 100%. And what I think it comes down to is we need to have private investors and whatever public funds are available to help get some development going. I mean, that's what we need is some development, because we can't do anything about the existing inventory that's out there. But like Julie said, there's lots of elderly people that want to get off the lake with no place to go. So how do we lure in real estate developers or investors to take on the challenge?
I'll just tell you a quick story. So Pam and Shannon and I know that open houses, you just really don't get a lot of traffic on open houses. But the two times that I've had an open house on I'll call them the Shorewood Drive condos. They're really twin homes on Shorewood Drive in a small association of 4 units. I've had a 2-hour open house, like the last couple of years, each one. I have had nonstop traffic from the 1 o'clock starting date to the 3 o'clock ending date, like for its time. It has been nonstop. So I had a local, actually a builder from Florida who has, I'm getting an echo. Are you guys getting an echo?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Anyway, he and his wife wanted to move here. They have family here, and they were really struggling on housing stock. So he was thinking about building, and so kind of the discussion is identify maybe within the city of International Falls parcels that would be good for development, and maybe run the utilities in there, roads, curb gut, and then get it ready so that private developers can come in and build. Like if they have to have the whole dime, like, do you know what I mean? Like the roads, the infrastructure. I saw this work in the Twin Cities with areas. There was kind of a public-private partnership, and it spurred development of housing because the developers didn't have the whole burden. Like extending Shorewood Drive, or because that's riverfront, more one-level twin homes, things like that. Maybe that's the way to go about it, is identify those parcels, see what has to be done in terms of infrastructure, lay that in, and then it's more attractive to developers to just come in and do their thing, which is build the homes and sell them.
Right. That's one of the things our group has been doing, is trying to identify parcels within the city limits that would lend themselves to some type of housing, and it's pretty limited. Although there are some areas, in fact, the city owns not a lot of property, but the city owns some lots as well that might be in play here. The other thing I would note too, just talking to the builders, is the cost of new construction has really gone up, and even in the last this summer with COVID, I think part of that's demand, but the cost of new construction's really gone up. Even though, as you pointed out, Julie, that the interest rates are super attractive right now, but costs are high.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I sold a property on the lake, and between the time that we sold it and then they closed and kind of got the bids together, and then we're going to move forward, the price of lumber pretty much doubled. So they're going to put it on hold.
Yeah.
Julie, this is Mayor Drobe. I have a question regarding what you just said about extending services or build new homes. One of the things that we're finding right now in the city of International Falls is we are really, really struggling to take care of the infrastructure that we already have: sewer lines, water lines, roads. So one of the things that we've been kind of looking at is the opportunity of cleaning up like a neighborhood, whether it's the city buys the property as we tear down homes, retaining the property. Then we already have the sewer lines, water lines, all of that infrastructure is there. And as we're putting in new roads and trying to make everything better in the area that we already have without extending out our infrastructure, do you think that that would be something that people would be interested in if we were to clean up legitimately an entire city block and then redraft those lines for the property lines so they don't have the smaller lots to be able to build bigger and have a new development inside the old International Falls? Do you think that that would be attractive for people?
I really saw that work in in Minneapolis, like Richfield, New Hope, those inner ring suburbs. They did exactly that. And then they did do townhomes a lot of times, because it's cheaper to do that, or twin homes. But that I did see that work in the Twin Cities very well.
The only thing that I would add to that, though, is that it depends also on what neighborhood specifically you're talking about, because with the price of new construction and trying to get, appraised values to be where they would need to be in order to cover the cost of this and whatnot, you gotta look at the surrounding neighborhood, irregardless. So I would not recommend going and leveling out a block on 7th Street and 10th Avenue, or not 10th Avenue, like 8th Avenue, something like that. Just ain't going to work. So it really is going to depend on the location.
I would agree with that too.
Yeah, I want to kind of, this is Pam Obeson, jump off of what Shannon said, is that, with the price of construction, and, even a couple years ago, I was in a city council meeting or some kind of group. I apologize, I can't remember what it was, but we were talking about housing, and developers were saying the houses are going to be a minimum of $200,000. I can't imagine anyone spending $200,000 on a block somewhere in what I tend to call Old International Falls.
But I can also envision, and I've seen townhomes that are, smaller footprints attached, and affordable housing for first-time buyers too. That has worked. So I don't want to just think about a Rambler footprint, on 7th Street, but think about maybe a 2-story row home, like row homes or whatever, townhomes. And I think that could be looked at too, because those are cheaper to build because the footprint's smaller, and it would be affordable first-time housing potentially. I mean, potentially, you'd have to, get a developer to look at that, because we just don't have a lot of townhomes options here, and that can be a good, first time and last time purchase for somebody.
Oh, and I don't think that we need to take up a ton of time on this. It's just. It's an option. I think location would be incredibly important to both of the concerns that have been raised. The value of the house, and to put it on in the middle of, put it next door to me on 8th Street. I completely understand that that's improbable, but if you get closer to the downtown district, you get closer to up on 11th Avenue or 9th Avenue, as the houses start to get a little bit newer and a little bit nicer, to be able to build that farther closer to, let's say, 53. I mean, a location would definitely be important. I think the key to my point is to try to save that infrastructure, and the city would still have an investment in trying to manage the properties to get the prices down, remove the homes, whatever that is, but then we don't have to build new infrastructure that we have to take care of in the next 50 years, 60 years, where we get into the problems that we have now. So I think we can move on. It was just a question that I had, and I think it's been satisfied answers. There's challenges, but it would be a possibility.
Another thing I think about is, what has Grand Rapids done, Virginia, Minnesota, Hibbing, Bemidji? Are there any models that we could look at that have been successful in those communities that we could, duplicate? So I just throw that out there. And maybe the housing study or committee has done that already.
Well, and a gentleman reached out to me from Bemidji. He's a developer in the capital D form of the word, where he's built different types of housing throughout the region, in Thief River, in Baudette, in Black Duck. And he's going to come to our next meeting on November 2nd at 10 o'clock at Bacchus. And he's interested in this area, and I shared this housing study with him, and he's going to bring his builder up, and he's going to talk about some of the different types of housing that he's built in some of these different communities. So that's really a missing component too, is a true developer that can put a financial package together around housing, depending on the audience or the ultimate buyer. And at that time too, I'd like to show them around, like the riverfront property. I know that the cost of the property there, the real estate, is going to be expensive, but you look at what's happened in Fort Francis along their riverfront, and that might be an opportunity too. But it's a complicated problem for sure.
Well, that's encouraging, Paul, because if we can duplicate a model that's worked in other communities like a Baudette or a Black Duck, we could that's terrific.
Well, and Jim Koochiching has worked with him and knows him and says he's the real deal, and he can put stuff together, and he understands this region, and so that's encouraging as well.
Yeah.
Any other questions of our local realtors?
I guess I have one more, and obviously there's conversation that we have going on at the city, but can you tell us about our rental stock?
Yeah, we have to talk about that.
Oh.
Not good.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear. Thank you.
Not good and shortage of, especially for people relocating.
And way too expensive for what it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I really that's what I needed to hear.
Can I jump in here?
Sure.
Please.
Okay, so for those of you on the phone, this is Councilor Kraus. Say, as a person whose actual job takes them into a lot of homes and a lot of stuff, and sees a lot of lives of the residents of the city of International Falls, I have to say that I don't disagree that we need new homes, because I would certainly like to move into one. My home was built in 1941. But on the same token, we have a very large population of people here that are living under the poverty line. And there are a number of people that are living on like $750 a month. And unfortunately, we don't have places for them either. So I think for as much as a developer can come in and build 4 or 5 new homes and make some money, I think there's money to be made on the other end of that spectrum with some sort of decent rental units. I've always said, if you could put up a building like what they're going to tear down at the TP there, 10 units, 10 efficiency apartments at $400 to $500 a month, you could make a killing in the city of International Falls. I'm just throwing that out there, that as much as we need the high-end stuff, our low-end stuff isn't that great either.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would argue that we need better quality across all sectors.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Can I just throw out one other thing too, because it's KEDA, so it's the whole county. The lake properties and the whole internet issue. I actually had my first conversation with a buyer who was trying to set up internet, and actually Frontier said, no, we're not even going to do it. There is no internet option for them. So I did talk to Jimmy Yunt about that on Friday, and he's following up on it. But that makes me nervous too, because of the lake property sales that I've been involved in this year, the vast majority are people from out of town, honestly. And they just expect to turn on the spigot and get water and to have good internet. And a lot of them are working from home partially too. And I know that's a whole separate issue, but it does tie into housing. It does.
Definitely. Yep.
Yeah,
that's a real problem.
That's a good point, Julie, and that's another reason we're working on that as well. We've made progress with expanding internet, but you're right, we've got a ways to go. And people do treat it like every other utility, that it should be available, and they just assume that it is. So it's a good point.
Yes.
And it also, again, highlights just how complicated this issue is. And Joe, you brought that up too, with lower income folks, seniors. The whole housing, the deeper you get into it, it's complicated, and there's no simple solutions. But I'm just hoping that we can just keep focus on this and look for some sort of solutions and some sort of creative way to get at it.
Well, and I would like to add too that there are organizations within our area that are, they specifically work towards the low-income people. You got Servants of Shelter and whatnot. We've got the Bacchus Project that's really looking at lower-income housing. So, and so that's great. But I have felt like there's been a lack of higher-end housing proponents, all for the sake of trying to make sure that the lower-income ones. So I want to, not to negate the lower income, because we need it all across the board, but when we're talking about economic development too, we need these people to come in and take these jobs and whatnot. And so we're never going to see that economic move up until we get the upper class rentals, I shouldn't say upper class, I mean upper level rentals, housing, whatnot. That's just a cog in the wheel that absolutely, has to be as much of a priority as affordable housing too. There's different ideas out there as far as what we could do maybe with existing buildings. Pam, you've got the Koochiching that, I think could be turned into a nice, 4 apartment place. So there are things out there that could be done. But I just don't want to let there be just a conversation of what do we do for the lower income, because there's things coming. There's things coming for them, fortunately. So, and I hope I didn't ruffle feathers there, but I'm looking at it from an economic standpoint too, and business development.
I'm in agreement with you, Shannon. I'm in agreement with that, Shannon, that we want skilled professionals in technology or engineering or other fields. If they don't have a good place to house their families, they're not going to come here. And it's somewhere else.
Yep. Paul, are you able to give us any update on the cold weather or the storage data building? Because that's a lot of high-paying jobs too, and we'd be running into a major issue with people trying to find housing.
Well, yeah, at this point in time, I'm working with Joe and his group, and we're working on a site plan. He's also working with his investor side, trying to raise funding for it. They're moving forward. It's inching along, but I'm encouraged that he's still working at it, and he's got some very good people around him. It's just a question of putting it together and seeing it through. And like so many things we get involved in, it takes way longer, and you have to be patient with these things. But I'm encouraged by more now than I was about a year ago, and just again part of that's who he has on his team.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing, is that we don't want to be left with nothing for these people when it does come to fruition, if it does, and hopefully it does. At that point there, we have nothing. So it's like we need to. I can understand investors being hesitant to invest in the unknown, but I mean, what comes first? We get the people coming in that want the housing and they can't get it, or do we get the housing and get the people coming in? So,
And we have a shortage right now of nice rental properties for people, moving in. I do feel we have that right now.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I've talked to many.
Go ahead.
I've
go
talked to
ahead.
many young professionals that come in that they come from paying $1,000 a month in rent, and they're not afraid of doing it now. If they had something that was modern and nice, and so they're not scared of that. So but what they're paying for right now is they're paying $750, $800 a month for not very high quality. So, and they don't have the option to move up.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Thank you very much for joining us. It was a good discussion, and thanks for your work in our community, because housing definitely affects economic development. There's no question. So thanks again, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
My pleasure for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
The next item is Granite Digital. Paul?
Yeah, I'll touch on it, my director's report as well, but I just, I've been working with Joe and the city on a site plan for his expanded business park. And as we got into some of the details regarding overall square footage, impervious surfaces, the need for drainage and water retention or stormwater retention, we found out pretty quickly that the footprint is chewing up a lot of that space, and there will probably be a need for some sort of stormwater retention pond. And one of the suggestions was there's one lot that is to the east of Ricky Roach's current lot. It would be lot number 2 in block 3, and that's available. And Joe would like the KETA board to consider amending their developer's agreement and allowing him to purchase lot 2 in block 3 of the existing business park to add to their overall footprint. It's a 200 by 159 foot lot, so it's not real big, and but it would adjoin to the rest of his property. So he asked me to have the board consider him purchasing that and amending the agreement to include that additional lot for $1,000.
How much did you say?
1,000 on top of, for that additional lot.
Paul, do we have any developers agreement on time frame of building or anything? And I know that, and I hope everyone understands how supportive I am of the project. I'm just curious on if we're selling a lot that may not ever get developed, and if we have the right to retain it afterwards or anything like that.
Yes, we do. The current developers agreement covers that scenario. And there are timelines for construction before it reverts back. So yes, that's all covered in the current developers agreement.
And what are the timelines?
I don't have it in front of me. I think it's fall of 2021 or December of 2021. He has to start construction, but let me confirm that before the end of the meeting.
Okay.
If we have a developer's agreement in place and we're just amending that and we're selling an additional lot to an area that hasn't historically been developed as much as we had hoped for, I would make the motion to amend it to add that lot for $1,000.
All right. We have a motion by the mayor. We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second. Further discussion?
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner McBride.
Yes.
No, according to Paul's description, this would be as stormwater retention, which would be stormwater's coming off the buildings?
Yeah, there's a lot of asphalt and building, and the suggestion from the city, Kelly Myers, Ted Brokaw, and Ken Anderson, was that because of the challenges with all that there will probably be a need, or there will be a need for some sort of strategy around a stormwater retention.
And I'm not against it. I know that down the road there will be a request for tax abatement, but selling a property for $1,000 and then it's going to be a pond, there will never be any real tax dollars ever received from that property. But I mean, for an expansion this big, you probably need something like this. So,
and it's a small.
I could support it.
Thank you. And it is a small lot.
Can we tax it as waterfront property since there's going to be a pond?
Oh, you can go duck hunting there, Joe.
No, that's in city limit.
Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion passes. The next item is this CBDC and the CARES Relief Grant. Joanne?
Hi. So the Grants Committee, which is made up of individuals across Koochiching County from each city, reviewed 27 applications, and we're in the process of giving out $114,404 to those applicants. I am going to Northome to distribute funds today. The committee also requested an additional $80,000 to do an additional round 5 of funding, since we are still seeing a need within businesses and nonprofits in Koochiching County, and we want to make sure that we are using all the CARES funding and that it does get used up in our county. So if there is funding available to do that, we're hoping to be able to get some additional funds if it's not being used for anything else in the county at this point.
Right.
So in total, we've given over $400,000 to small businesses and nonprofits in Koochiching County.
Okay. Do we have any?
Does that include the latest grant approval that the county last week? I believe we approved another.
Yeah.
I don't remember the number off the top of my head.
It was like 65,000, I think, or something like that. So we needed. There was a lot more applicants than we thought there would be for the final round, and we wanted to fund everyone. So we asked the county to get the funding for that and to close that gap in round 4. So that 65 or around there $1,000, that is included in that $114,000 for round 4 funding. And now we're asking for an additional, we just think 80 at least. We have a couple of people that have already applied we have the application still open per se, and so people have still been applying even though we said that they are closed. So we want to try to open them up again if there is a need. And since KEDA has administered this whole grant process, KEDA has made $38,500 minus marketing and other costs. So we've done marketing in newspapers and online and some of those things. Those costs will be taken out of that, but we have been able to secure some additional funding through administering this program.
Any questions, comments of Joanne?
Joanne, this is Mayor Grova. Just a heads up, the city has expended all of our funds, so we will we will not have any additional. In fact, I received a phone call on Friday from Representative Stauber asking how the city distributed out our funds, and he was very encouraged to hear how much we were able to give back to our business community, along with the PPE equipment for our ambulance and everything else. But we're down to less than $8,000 left, and we're fairly certain that we'll be able to utilize that in-house.
Yeah, and that's totally fine. We did ask the cities individually if they did have extra funds, and Rainier did give an additional 5%, I think it was, for an additional round if needed, if we were going to be able to do one. So whatever's kind of left over, but like you said, if these are allocated expenses that are going to something, that's fine. We just want to make sure that the county uses all these funds in our county before the deadline.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner McBride, and I agree with Joanne. And the county is working diligently to expend those funds. First of all, we continue to get expenses that we are covering, with CARES Act funding, but we also looking to make sure we spend every dollar. And I know Joanne's worked hard, and I've had people I've talked to. There still seems to be a misunderstanding of how this grant works. People still think that they were turned down for a loan last spring, that this is the same type issue. This is a grant dollars. I mean, this is not something that's a loan that you have to pay back. It's a grant, and I think people are finally starting to understand, and that's why we're getting additional requests now.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just add too, the process has worked out pretty well. We've got a good committee now, and they've got a good sense of the types of applications that we're seeing and eligibility. And that's the other role that Joanne's played. She's helping these businesses understand eligibility, what's covered, what's not covered. And we've heard from a lot of businesses that said, this is really tremendous. It's helped a great deal. And over $400,000 going back into our county to help these folks get through that. It's been really positive.
Thanks for the work, Joanne and Paul. Any other comments? All right, thanks, Joanne. We'll move on to the director's report.
Okay, Mr. Chair, just a few items I want to share. Again, I've been working with Joe Mershon and his team around the data center project, and now we've brought in Dave Serrano to help us with some of the wetlands issues. So that's moving forward as part of his site plan. Little Fort Community Building, Joanne and I continue to work with DEED and the City of Little Fort to help with their Small Cities Development Grant Program. It's a preliminary application, and if you're driven by community building, you see that the work they're doing on the outside area. They're going to build a gazebo and bricks, and as we passed the last meeting, an opportunity for Kita to purchase one of those bricks. But the overall vision is to update the inside of the community building as well, make it more functional, and make it more attractive as a location for different types of events. So it's been a good project, and working with the city has been it's been going well. And November 17th, I believe, is the grant deadline. So for the preliminary app, so we're shooting for that deadline. Cold weather testing. We currently have commitments for 11 weeks of testing. Our first group will be arriving next week, so we get back into it next Monday. There's still some uncertainty, however, from especially JLR around travel and just how many teams will be coming. But I'm encouraged by at least having 11 weeks. That gets us almost to our goal. And so anyway, we look forward to getting a good early start next week, and hopefully there will still be opportunities for some of these other groups to schedule into the 2021. JLR also will be running a durability fleet this season. You'll see JLR vehicles driving around town. Those are local drivers that will be working on that behalf, and that starts next month, I believe. Yes. Some miscellaneous items. Our regional deed representative, Kari Howe, is retiring at the end of this year. And as well as that occurring, deed is actually going through some reorganization and named a new business development person. And so Kari arranged a virtual introduction and had an hour-long conversation with the new business development person for deed, and hoping to get her up here and talk about some of the things that are occurring in Cooch County. And Ted Saxton continues to have this Grow Koochiching forum where he invites different folks via Facebook and has forums around different topics. And Joanne and I were able to participate along with Soren Olsen last week in a Facebook video forum talking about economic development, and especially in the outlying areas of the county. So continue to have discussions around that. And with that, I will answer any questions.
Who is the new deed representative?
She's from South Carolina, and her name is, it escapes me at the moment. I'm sorry, I should have referenced that in there. But she's coming from South Carolina. She'll be in the state next month, I believe. And she's committed to coming up here when she gets a little bit settled in and visiting us here in Cooch.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner McBride's question. For Paul, I was around for Co-Box 2 build and Co-Box 3 build. Yeah, and I understand, the challenges with COVID. So was there a commitment from any of the cold weather testings when we built those that they would take so many weeks? I mean, any signed commitments or anything like that?
Just JLR. We built it at their request.
That was number 3.
So that's why we get the annual lease payment. It covers construction costs of that as well. Oh, and Alan, I'm sorry. The new business development, her name is Catalina Valencia. Originally from South America. So, yeah. And Kari Howe, for her retirement, wanted to come up to Cantilever, so that's where she's going to be up here this weekend with some friends, celebrating her birthday and her retirement.
Very good. All right. We'll move on to city and county updates. We can start with Mayor Droba.
Thank you. As you guys know, we're finishing up with Highway 53. The road has been paved. They're doing electrical work. They're doing sod work, sidewalk work. But the road itself is done for the year. Hasn't been opened up to traffic yet. We have we've tarred all of the roads that we were looking at doing for 2020. The one little hiccup that we've had is driveway entrances on Shorewood, Crabtree. Some of those still need to be taken care of. There's some entrances that we're doing follow-up work on. However, for the most part, our projects are done for this year. We are going into 2021 very ambitiously. Same thing, working on infrastructure projects. One of the things that we're very, very happy about is the bonding bill was passed, freeing up some of our monies towards the airport. In the next week or so, I would really like to get with the county administrator, our city administrator, and maybe one of the board chairs, just to kind of look at how that airport funding works. if we can use some of the CARES Act funding for operations, which I know Councillor Briggs had brought up at one of the airport meetings, that would be a game changer for us in our budget this year. So we have to have those conversations on the partnership between the city and the county and how we want to utilize those funds. Besides that, everything else is going pretty dang good in the city. We tonight have the Holiday gas station store that we anticipate the developers agreement being finalized, and as soon as that happens, they have their building permit in place so they can start building on 53, another enhancement to our city. As Paul knows, we are working on a couple other projects behind the scenes that may come to fruition hopefully this fall, if not first thing in the spring. But things are going very, very well.
Good. Thank you for the update. Councillor Kraus, do you have anything to add?
No. Mayor Joba pretty much covered everything, and things are looking good, we'll say.
Very good. We'll move on to Commissioner McBride.
Mr. Chair, just quickly, County Road 103, hopefully we start blacktopping this week. It's going to be a challenge, but we need at least to get one, a work. I don't know if we'll get a workhorse on it or if we're going to get the whole thing, but we need to get that going. I noticed when I went by this county garage the other day, we were putting snowplows on and sanding equipment, getting ready. It looks like with this cold snap, it's going to last at least for the next 2 weeks, and then winter starts. So I think we're going to have measurable snow here quite soon. And just kudos to the city. And when I'm driving around doing a little campaigning, the city streets, the money that you've expended on your roadways is very, very, very welcome. So thank you to the city and for all your work, and it looks really nice.
Hey, Commissioner Pavlik, do you have anything to add? You're muted. Okay.
On purpose.
Wade of mine.
From the
pantomime it, Wade. Whatever you want to say, we'll place your age here. We'll try and guess.
Yeah. From the far reaches of Koochiching County, we have Representative Hanson. Do you have anything from the end of the rainbow?
Oh, absolutely, Mr. Chair, and thank you for including us. I heard from Big Falls, their campground is making progress on the site. Their infrastructure is almost complete, and they're hoping that early in the spring they will be able to move on. And the same is true for North Dome. I heard from Morgan Skiles, he's the city clerk there, at Phase 2 of the water and sewer project. And the water tower itself, they're starting right now with the basic infrastructure with full implementation of construction in the spring. As you heard from Paul, Little Fork is working with Paul and Joanne to set up a deed grant for the community building. They're in the planning stage for Main Street improvements to coincide with the MnDOT project next year. And they're also applying for GA funding for safe roads and school planning assistance. Their Third Avenue water project is wrapping up. It'll complete a $4.3 million water and sewer infrastructure improvement in Little Fork in the last 2 years. The liquor store is doing all right now, but of course everything hinges on Mr. COVID. And they also were planning to add a dump station in Lofgren Park campground this fall, but it'll going to be put off until spring. Out west in all of the Koochiching County parks that they have, even with the inclement weather, there is a quadrant of campers and boats, and even though that was cold yesterday and the day before, and the fish aren't exactly jumping in the boat yet, I noticed that most of the people that are there from out of the area, so they are in our area and indeed spending some money. And as you know, cold snap is on and there was snow. At least the people in Birchdale heard that because it's been very warm there and we've had no snow and the tomatoes are still ripening on the vine. Thank you for asking.
All right. Any questions of anyone? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the public comment period. Do we have any members of the public in attendance?
No, but I just want to say in the weird event that I happen to lose my election, I'm going to use public comment all the time.
Thank you very much. We look forward to that.
And Mr. Chair, this is McBride. If I lose mine, you'll never see me again.
All right. Thank you. Let's set the next meeting date, which would be, if we follow the same pattern, would be the 16th of November.
No, that won't work, Road Commissioner.
Not for me.
Pardon? No?
I think Commissioner Hanson and myself, we would struggle on those dates.
I will be at the shack from the Friday before till the last Sunday. I took the entire deer season off. So, first time in my life, and I'm not coming to town for nothing. That includes you, Mayor Droba. I won't be at the Monday, the 16th meeting.
Well, okay, meeting remotely, you can contact us from the hunting camp.
Not for my deer stand, I won't be. Sorry, gentlemen.
That may be our next project, to extend Wi-Fi to all the hunting camps.
Well, mine's in St. Louis County, so I think that would be a problem.
Well,
actually, the fiber optic line runs across my property, but I can't connect to it. Figure that out.
Well, just get a shovel.
I'm on my iPad. I could do it. You know what? Maybe. Yeah, I'll do it from the deer stand, and then if I shoot something, I won't mute it.
All right. So,
23rd?
what 23rd? All those dates are in deer season. How about the 23rd?
23rd works for me.
Okay. Anyone else?
Fine by me.
That works. 23rd at 9:30. All right?
Perfect.
All right. Any other business?
Good luck, everyone.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul.
Thanks for attending. It was a good meeting. That discussion with the realtors was very informative, I thought. So,
For some reason, I have a Zoom invite on the 23rd for the Housing Collaborative.
Yeah, that got moved to the 2nd.
Right, November 2nd, but I'm saying November 23rd. I already have an invite for a Zoom meeting for the Housing Collaborative from Isaac. It automatically pops onto my calendar.
Right.
So, I don't know if we want to move our meeting to 9. And just because that meeting starts at 10. So if we can move it to 9, we could probably be done in time to get on to that meeting. We only use about an hour.
sure.
Does that make sense for everybody?
Okay with everyone? 9 o'clock on the 23rd?
I always come at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, and hopefully I'll be on my feet, so I hope to attend in person. If I'm not on my feet, I'm going to have a problem with my doctor.
Sure. All right. 9 o'clock, 23rd of November. And any other business? Thank you all for attending. Have a good month.